The medical school in Monroe held a ribbon cutting today for 2 mobile health units. Jasmine Bingham was there and joins us with more on its impact. Jasmine.
Yes, Jennifer, I'm told these units will support medical needs of people in rural communities.
Not just about medicine. It is about listening and getting to the need.
The $1 million mobile units by Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine were made possible through ARPA funds. They feature private exam rooms, phlebotomy stations, sinks, diagnostic equipment, freezers, and more. One Ouachita police jury member says this is one of the police jury's efforts to invest in the community and the future of healthcare in Northeast Louisiana.
What can we do to ultimately bring rural health to them? So as opposed to individuals having to load up, come into town to have health care, ultimately we were looking at an opportunity to be able to go out and to reach them.
Dean of VCOM, Dr. Mark Sanders, says these units could help with emergency and disaster relief.
Lieutenant Governor's Office sponsors certified emergency response training. All of our second-year students are required by our curriculum to go through that training, and they're certified. So if we have minor emergencies, like if you have cuts, lacerations, we'll be able to suture those on site. Therefore preventing, if we have a disaster hit, people not having to go to the emergency room. So it just helps get more resources out in the community.
For information on VCOM, visit www.vcom.edu.